I remember back then, as a kid, coming home from school every day. I'd be playing video games left and right, even on the weekends. And I remember that I just, every time I'd lose a level or I get hurt, or as I'm trying to finish a level, I would get so frustrated. I would just throw fits, you know, and that was the only thing that was just, you know, I mean, having grown up and just looking back, I just find it so funny that I was just getting all stressed out like that about losing in video games. It was just one of those moments that I miss. Uh, you know, the less stressful life when it comes to just living my life. And of course, I was a kid back then, and at times just refusing to do homework. I was all about playing video games every single day, just coming home from school or just all day on the weekends. And whenever I wanted to finish a level, you know, it's like, and I can't. And even though I'm so close to it, it's just, even just playing games like Super Smash Brothers, or, just, it was just all about just, you know, I just took that so personally, especially playing against certain other family members. And I just remember that was one thing that you just remember, just taking so personally, and just looking back, I just find it so funny because that was the thing back then. Like, we were all into it like that, you know. But and that's just like, just looking back, like how many years ago when video games was the thing that some of us have taken very seriously, as far as who's the better one, or just trying to finish a level or finish a level together, this and that, playing in family party, this and that. And I know at times where I just completely lost it, just struggling to finish a level that I needed to finish, even if it's the last level, this and that. I mean, those were the days when life was just less stressful, and when the world was just not as crazy as it is now, right? Um, just looking back, obviously this was, I was a kid, just in the '90s, just living my life, and obviously just looking back in the '90s, it was just so much better than it is now. And if you're talking about the way the world is and society is and all that. But you know that was then, because I remember used to getting mad over losing in levels in video games, and just to the point where I just given up and just throwing my it's just getting so angry like that. But compare that to now, like my home life now is just, it's like I just don't have, and I know it's not just me either. Like, we just don't have the time to play video games, with so much just going around, just a lot of you know just a lot of moving around, rearranging. It's been that way for the past several years, and that's the real stress that we're dealing with. Back then, for me as a kid, it was all about video games. If you thought that video games was the one thing I was just super stressed about, like it was a big deal for me in my life, that I take video games very seriously. To of course I was a kid, right? But now the stress that I'm dealing with, especially as this last several years, is just what's been transpiring in this outside life, in my home life. Like, it's just too much. It's like I said in another video, where I said, you know the home life is just like, is equated to Watto's junkyard. Watto from Star Wars Episode 1. When he was doing the betting of the pod race and all that. Look at his junkyard. It's just like mine. Shit. It's just sad. Even just It's just real stress around me, and it makes me feel so down. Like every single day, it's just too much what we gotta do. Like every single weekend, it was just, we hardly have any time, and especially me too. Hardly have any time for myself, and just hardly have any time to enjoy ourselves, this and that. And especially on some holidays like 4th of July or Memorial Day, it's just a lot of this same thing. We've got to move all this just for guests come over, this and that. But yeah, that's the real stressful life now. You know, as much as I used to stress over video games as a kid, and now it's like, you know, just when I thought video games was my drama, then, you know, that I've taken personally, especially with certain other people. Um, Now it's just the drama that I've been facing, especially in the last several years, or heck, even last year more so. It's just a lot of drama that I've been facing in my dump, my friend circle, outside life. Just considering the friends that are just parted ways with me recently. Guys, I know I know Dewey is the most recent one, and at this point, it would not surprise me if he had already parted ways with me after the third group text incident, even after I had blocked him previously on the one where I literally trashed him. And I understand he was very, very, very upset, and that could have been his last straw. And guys like Julio and Robbie and Andrew, I don't blame them if they also parted ways with me because of the fact that they can no longer take me at my worst. They just can't continue to see me like this, and it's not just them. Tristan, and who knows if Mari will ever get to that point too. We have not spoken for well over a month now. Well, sucks to say, maybe she could be the next one. You know, I mean, I hope I'm wrong. That is one of my best friends, but I know the people who have stuck around, and those guys are like Russ and the boss, Eugene, Ray, Carlos, those main five. That just got the thickest skin. And as far as all the other friends from my ex-close memorial wall, I don't blame them either if they chose to part ways with me because of they could no longer handle me at my worst. It's just a pattern that continues to follow along with the drama that I've been dealing with. This is the stress that I've been dealing with the last few years. It just makes me really miss playing video games to where it's just video games only that I just want to enjoy my leisure time. And now it's like I hardly ever have any leisure time. Yeah, I know the holidays are pretty much here. Halloween season's already here, and the one thing I'm really enjoying is just doing my seasonal crafting, and just really doing all the other seasonal stuff. At times I'll go hiking, this and that, but it's gotten to a point now where even my leisure time has been very much limited. So it's just a lot, like the stress I'm dealing with now versus the stress that I've dealt with playing video games. It's a major difference. And that's just where my life is at, and I just hate seeing all this stress just around me. And I'm just seeing it every single day, even when I'm in my dump, just with all the constant BS that's been happening in there. And just can't help but to think about how stressful my outside life is, and my home life being like Watto's junkyard. You know what I'm saying? And that's where my life is at, dude. It's just a lot of drama, a lot of stress. People can tell me, oh no, you gotta go with this group. You gotta enjoy life. Life is too short. The years. I don't do year in reviews like that. I get all that. I set my own standards on how I look at certain days, or just a trend of days, this and that. Yeah, but this is the real stress I've been dealing with, and how I wish I can just go back to those days when I'm just playing video games and just really enjoying the kid life, and just life back in the 90s. When it comes to the 90s, it's a stress reliever. Compared to now, it's just way too much that I'm going to have to deal with. It's way too much. As if the world has just already been more corrupted than anything. Too much division, too much chaos, and and just now, like with my personal life, it's too much drama, and now it's to the point where too many friends that are lost just don't find me a trustable friend anymore. I'm just calling it like it is. So, you know, but unfortunately, this is where I'm at. I just wish I could find my own time to just play video games like some of these guys do, like a boss, and uh, hell, maybe even Chris might still have some time. I don't know anymore. Uh, but or even yeah, just I just gotta get to fixing that, and I know I'm gonna discuss this in the next videos. I'm gonna be heading to my dump about the fact that I might see a life-changing move that's gonna be happening later today. So I'm focused on that. I'll talk more about that. I'll get it a little more in depth, and so I'll talk about that later as I go. All right, peace out, everyone.